Welcome back to English 4.0, the radio show. Let's go! Advanced.
Hello and welcome back to the program. Welcome to class number 115, the advanced portion of the class. And today we're starting with a review of yesterday's material by looking at a phrasal verb. We saw the phrasal verb yesterday, the phrasal verb to pull out of, which is essentially to withdraw, to pull out of. Now, that verb, withdraw, is an interesting verb. It ends in a W, withdraw, D-R-A-W. And we have, for example, to withdraw money, which is sacar dinero, to take out money from the bank, withdraw money. And we have the verb the noun, a withdrawal, ending in an L, withdrawal. So almost the same word, but with an L. I have to make a withdrawal, ending in an L. It's a subtle difference in terms of pronunciation, but this is the idea of pulling out. So to pull out of a competition. He withdrew from the competition. So draw, just like dibujar. Yesterday he drew. Withdraw. Yesterday he withdrew from the competition. He pulled out of the competition. Okay? The concurso, the competition, the contest. Have you ever pulled out of a competition? Yes, I've pulled out of a competition. Have you pulled out of a race? Yes, I have pulled out of a race. When I watch the Formula One, sometimes drivers have to pull out because they have a problem with their car, a malfunction. Or maybe an athlete gets sick, gets ill, and they have to pull out of a competition, of a tournament, of an event. Did anyone pull out of the Tour de France last year? In fact, actually, we say the Tour de France, we try to pronounce it the French way. Tour de France, Tour de France, but we don't say the Tour of France. We say the Tour de France. We pronounce it, or we make an effort in English to pronounce according to the native language, which is French in this case. Tour de France. But whereas in Spanish you tend to translate everything and say Francia, but in English we try to keep the original language there, which is French. Did anyone pull out of the Tour de France last year? Did they withdraw? I'm sure several racers did. I'm sure several riders. Cyclists, riders, I'm sure several did. I don't know the statistics. I don't know, but I'm sure several of them pulled out because it's very, very physically demanding. The cycling, extremely physically demanding. Yes, and there are so many possible problems and so many reasons why someone may wish to pull out. So yes, athletes sometimes pull out of competitions. Yesterday, I stressed the pronunciation of pull, because we don't say pool, not pool, which is the piscina where we swim, but this is pull, de tirar, to pull out of. Okay, now the next thing that we looked at in the last class was almost and nearly. We were talking about the words almost and nearly. So, casi, almost, nearly, and hardly as well. So I gave you some questions. For example, has she fixed it yet? She has almost fixed it. Not yet. She has almost fixed it. Now, did the television break when he dropped it? You can say, it almost broke. Or you could say, it nearly broke. It nearly broke. Did they miss their flight? They almost missed their flight. They nearly missed their flight. Yeah, they nearly missed their flight. Now, have you finished your dinner yet? No, but I've almost finished my dinner. Cassie, I've almost finished my dinner. I've nearly finished. We're nearly finished right now. Did you break a world record? No, I didn't break a world record. I almost broke a world record. I nearly broke a world record. Did they need more time? Yes, they needed more time. They almost needed more time. Now, they didn't actually need more time, but they almost needed more time. They nearly needed more time. Have we finished the show yet? We've almost finished the show. No, we haven't. We haven't almost finished. We still have about 12 minutes. Okay. But it is time to move on. So we've practiced here with almost and nearly in the sense of casi. So now we can move on to take a look at our expression of the day.
Expression of the day.
All right, it is time for our expression of the day. The expression of the day today is to lay down the law. To lay down the law. So we have the law, which is the voice of authority. To lay down the law. So sometimes teachers, for example, have to lay down the law. They have to maybe punish or display their power and control by laying down the law, by exercising their power. So essentially, to exercise your position of power is to lay down the law. When I was in school, when I was young, when I was in school, there were some kids who misbehaved. And every once in a while, from time to time, the teachers had to lay down the law. They had to exercise their power. They had to lay down the law and punish those students for misbehaving. So we have the expression to lay down the law. Lay down like tumbarse. But the law, to lay it down, to put it into place, to put the rules into action, to enforce them. Essentially, enforcing the rules is laying down the law. Okay, now, as we move into class number 115, we see that yesterday, and in fact, in our review, I mentioned casi can also be hardly. But we focused on almost and nearly. But now I'd like to talk about hardly, which we use in the sense of apenas or casi. So, for example, I hardly ever eat clams. It's in this sense, casi nunca. I hardly ever eat clams. Do I eat them? Yeah, I eat them sometimes. I do. I eat clams sometimes, but not very often. In fact, I hardly ever eat them. Yeah. So, how much did you eat? I hardly ate anything. So, we don't say I hardly ate nothing. If you used casi in the sense of almost, you could say I ate almost nothing. Or using hardly, we can say I ate hardly anything. We can't say hardly nothing. We say I ate hardly anything because I wasn't hungry. What did you see? I saw hardly anything. It was very foggy. It was very foggy. It's very popular in Canada to go to Niagara Falls. But sometimes when you go to Niagara Falls in Canada, sometimes it's very cloudy. And if it's very cloudy, sometimes you can't see much. Sometimes you can see hardly anything. You could say, yes, I had a great trip to Niagara Falls, but I saw hardly anything because it was very foggy. Yeah. How often do you drive a truck? I hardly ever drive a truck. How much did they pay? They hardly paid anything, or they paid hardly anything. So we have these structures, hardly ever, hardly any, hardly anything. They paid hardly anything. Almost nothing. It was very cheap. They paid hardly anything. How many accidents were there? Oh, there were hardly any accidents. There weren't many. There were very few. In fact, almost none. There were hardly any accidents. How many cars were there on the road? There were almost no cars. There were hardly any cars on the road. How long did it take? It took hardly any time. Hardly any time. How much time? Hardly any. Almost no time. It took hardly any time. How often does she go to the gym? Casi nunca. Almost never. Or hardly ever. She hardly ever goes to the gym. How often does he talk to his workers? The boss. How often does the boss talk to his workers? Casi nunca. He hardly ever talks to his workers. Okay. Hardly, hardly ever, hardly any, hardly anything. We'll review this tomorrow. Let's move on now and take a look at our vocabulary of the day.
Vocabulary of the day.
All right, it is time for the vocabulary of the day. Our 5 words of vocabulary. The first word today is con talento. And we say in English, talented. Talented. Elvis Presley was very talented. He was a very talented entertainer. He was a talented singer and a talented guitar player. But most importantly, he was a talented entertainer. He had that natural ability to entertain. Now, the second word, although it's many words in both languages, la gota que colmó el vaso. We say, the last straw. That was the last straw. We don't say the drop that overflowed the glass. No. We say that was the last straw. The last straw. Yes. Virtud. Virtue. 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 Now we have that TU sound. So we say chew, chew, virtue, like statue, Portugal, mixture, virtue, chew, 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 virtue. Bienestar. Bienestar is welfare. Welfare. Yes. Finally, por ahora, de momento. Here we say, for the time being. For the time being. Yes, for the time being, we will move on. Well, we will move on now, and we will do our translation list until the end of the class.
Translation.
All right, yes, it is time for our translation list. Today we're looking at translation list number 36. Yeah, number 36. And number 1. So remember, always out loud. Repeating in English out loud. A este paso te va a dar un infarto. A este paso. Here we say, You're going to have a heart attack at this rate. Now, I understand we've changed the order. You could say, at this rate, you're going to have a heart attack. Un infarto. You're going to have a heart attack. Slow down. You're going to have a heart attack. Number 2, necesitas pensar en otra cosa. You need to think about something else. Yeah, you need to think about something else. Number 3, alguien ha estado leyendo mi correspondencia. Someone's been reading my mail. Who's been doing that? Someone's been reading my mail. Number 4. Tienes una manera extraña de mirar a la gente. You have a strange way of looking at people. Yes, you have a strange way of looking at people. Number 5. Le conozco desde hace más de 20 años. I've known him for over 20 years. More than 20 years. Over 20 years. Now notice how we use the present perfect. I've known him. I have known him. I've known him with the contraction. I've known him for over 20 years. I've known him for more than 20 years. I've known him for over 20 years. We have to meet and know. I met him 20 years ago. So I've known him for over 20 years. Okay? Number 6. Siempre has parecido un hombre tan pacífico. You've always seemed like such a peaceful man. You've always seemed like such a peaceful man. Yes, peaceful. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. I'm going to finish there. We have 6 more sentences, but we will review them tomorrow. So make sure you tune in. We'll look at all the sentences and so much more. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.